right, so for this video, I am going to be reviewing Koleka Putuma's Collective Amnesia. Today, I am okay, hi sugar babies. So my background keeps changing, and that's because I keep moving and I keep going places. So before we go further, let me focus the camera. Hello. Welcome back to another video. Never mind the sort of confusion that is around me right now. I'm currently like sitting down in my room, so on the floor. And the sun is literally just right here. So I was like, I'm going to sit right here so that we have at least some decent lighting for this video. But anyway, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is RB. If you're new here, please make sure to press that subscribe button, like this video for more content like this. Your likes mean a lot to me, guys. Like I really like feed off of that stuff. So feed a hungry child and like this video. And if you are a regular visitor, what's up, homie? How are you? Haven't you missed me? It's been a whole week since you last saw my face. Today, I am reviewing somebody who I want to be like. I want to be her. She is a huge inspiration to me as a poet mostly, but just as a creative as well. Like I think that I started hearing the name Koleka about a couple years ago, but more prominently when I went to varsity, because I think also when you go to varsity, you meet a lot of like-minded people, a lot of people who like the stuff that you like and are into a lot of the stuff that you're into. But I think also just living in a society or living in a community for myself that wasn't really big on poetry, I had to like search high and low to find basic poetry, and most of the time it would be what I would find was like the Shakespeare's and the William Wordsworths, and you know, not too much of the new word type of poetry. Like the poetry section in any bookstore is very like, you know, and I get why, but it was just, for me, I think it was just such a tedious effort to try and find more writers that are current and that are like me and that are writing about things that affect me and things that are present in issues and even good things that are present in my life. So I think Koleka is was just that sort of like ray of sunshine to be like, oh my gosh, I found, first of all, an African writer, and second of all, a female Black writer who is queer, who writes about issues that are in our society today. Me doing this video where I am reviewing one of Koleka's works is just the beginning, because I really feel like once I started on this path of trying to find more Black creatives, more African creatives, more African writers, poets, I really exposed myself to a lot more of these creatives and have been reading more and more of their work and just exposing myself more to just more of that caliber of art, I guess. So without further ado, let's go on to Collective Amnesia. So briefly, what I'm going to do is, when I was deciding what to put into this video, I really kind of spent a couple weeks trying to think about it, really, because I wanted to present it in a different way that isn't just me speaking. But what I then decided to do was that I'm going to speak largely towards my favorite pieces in the poem and not necessarily towards Koleka as a writer. As I've kind of already expressed, I do think that she's very talented as a poet, and I like the fact that I picked up, it's a book that is popular, I picked it up in a bookstore, it was in the poetry section, I opened it and I got actual poetry, and it's not just a book that's getting clout. Again, I always say I'm not, you know, shaming anybody or throwing shade, but I think, like I said, I spoke about how hard it was to find real poetry when I was growing up, and now all I really crave for is poetry by new writers, by young writers, by people who are still alive, for one. And number two, one of the biggest struggles that I think I face as a reader is that I find a lot of work that is famous, that is getting a lot of clout, that everybody's like, oh my gosh, this book is so great, bestseller, what, and I open it and I'm just like, disappointment. but this book and Koleka herself has not been. So one of the poems that I really, really enjoyed in this poetry collection, I don't know why I said it like that, in this poetry collection is called Black Joy. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It says, "We were spanked for each other's sins, spanked in syllables and by the word of God, before dark meant home time. My grandmother's mattress knew each of my siblings, cousins, and the neighbor's children's morning breath by name. A single mattress spread on the floor was enough for all of us. Bread slices were buttered with irama and rolled into sausage shapes. We had it with black rooibos and did not ask for cheese. We were filled." I really like this poem, and it goes on, by the way, but I really like it because it expresses the simplicity of life as a young Black child in Africa. And while somebody may look at this poem and think, I feel like a lot of the times when we look at African lifestyles, even we ourselves as Africans make that mistake of sympathy, of feeling sorry, of like, oh, that sounds like a really, really poor lifestyle. But I felt like these were some of my best memories as a child, you know, being at my grandmother's house during the summer, or whenever we visited, going to the rural homestead. And, you know, it was the simple things. And even nowadays, I talk to my mom and I'm just like, I remember the simple times when we literally would have a black tea with plain white bread, and it was some of the most delicious stuff I've ever eaten in my life, back when we didn't care about McDonald's and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with McDonald's, but I think even with the title of this poem, the fact that it's called Black Joy, I felt very represented, and it was a moment of nostalgia for me that just reminded me of how good life was back then, and we should really just like appreciate some of the things that we experience as Black Africans. So similarly, one of the other things that I really enjoyed, one of the other pieces that I really enjoyed was called Growing Up Black and Christian. And she says, "The first man you are taught to revere is a white man. Then you go to school and learn the same. We do not blink, we do not question, and it is like this everywhere, all the time. The gospel is how whiteness breaks into our homes and breaks us to our knees." Now, as a person who's grown up both Black and Christian, this would be a poem about, I would say, myself. And I think one of the things that I liked about this collection, and not particularly this poem in itself, but in conjunction with it, was how a lot of the things that I've been thinking about lately in terms of the way I was brought up, my lifestyle, how all of those things that were sort of like, I don't want to use the word indoctrinated, but sort of like put into me as a child, how are they going to sort of translate into my adulthood, and how some of those things have sort of like lost their meaning, and what part of that is going to stay with me. And one of the things that I was thinking about is the idea of my Christianity, is the idea of my religious affiliations, and even in particular, just thinking that how important it is for you as you're entering adulthood to sort of think about these things and think about what they mean to you, and if you only believe in them because you were told to, or it actually makes sense to you. And so I think as a person who's grown up both Black and Christian, the idea of a white God always kind of like stood out to me, and have been thinking about it more and more nowadays. And obviously not to get too hung up on the details of religious theology, but I think it's important for us to think about these things on a regular basis and really just like review ourselves. And so that's one of the reasons why I really like this poem, and even the entire collection. You know, you think about growing up Black and women, there's no Easter Sundays for queers. She talks about Lifeline, which is a poem, I don't really know where it is, a poem about, it's just like a whole list of names where she says these are the people that have basically kind of like kept her alive, and you know, it's her. I forgot to mention that this collection, almost similarly structured to Rupi Kaur's collection, and a lot of well, not a lot, but and I think one other poet's book that I've written is also divided into 3 parts. Rupee's usually into about 4, I think. And the first part is called, before I confuse, an inherited memory. Then there's buried memory and post memory. So she divides that into those 3 parts. And as I'm reading these poets, I'm not really reading like which part is my favorite from every part, which is what I initially wanted to do, but I started this video and then I just remembered, oh right, that's what we were supposed to do. Great. I had an obsession with water when I was younger, and I used to write a lot of poems about it. So when I found a poem about water, and it's about on page 96 of this book, I was like ecstatic, like, and almost everything that she kind of says in this poem reflects a little of how I felt, but like my obsession with water wasn't from a place of fear, which is kind of where this poem is about. Not necessarily fear, but it gives sort of like an ode, a respect to water and how water is perceived by the African culture, the South African culture especially. And I really appreciated reading about this. It's one of the longer pieces in the poem. It kind of like stretches over like 3 or 4 pages, but it's really, really good. I also really enjoyed a couple of the love poems that are featured in this book. She mostly speaks about a love between 2 women and how, you know, that's a bit of a struggle, especially bringing in the religious aspect of it into there, and how judged she felt in church, and stuff like that. But all in all, I really, really appreciated just the vastness of topics that she speaks about in this book. My review of this book out of 5 stars is I would give it a good 4.5. And the only reason why I take away the 0.5 is I don't think it's a book that necessarily changes my life, and that's the only reason why like I would limit it. But it is a very good book. It deserves a 5 out of 5 rating. It's just the reason why I give 5 out of 5 ratings is like it needs to leave me like gut wrenched, like just like existential crisis. That's the big like books that give me an existential crisis are the ones that I'm just like, oh my god. But it definitely is a 5-star book. It got City Press Book of the Year, just by the way. So I definitely recommend Koleka as an author with all her work. I definitely do think that I'm going to be diving more into her plays and continuing to follow her on social media and check up on what she's doing and how she's doing. And I definitely recommend that you guys join me on that journey. So if you made it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you for joining us. Remember to like this video for more content like this. And like I said, I'm going to leave all of Koleka Putuma's details, her website, links to this particular book, and her Instagram handle and Facebook as well, I think. And by the way, just while we're on that topic, my very own books, including my new book, my links are in the description. So I would very much like it if you were to check them out as well and leave me a review. But yeah, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for joining us today. Remember to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And if there's a particular book or author that you want me to check out, please let me know in the description below. It is now December and we've had a very, very, very hectic year, but I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I hope that you guys are having a good time during this festive season with your family. And no matter how hectic the time may be right now, I really hope that you found some solace, some joy, something to thank God for, you know, this year, and just end the year on a good note. So again, thank you for joining me. My name is RB. See you on my next video. Bye.